Today we're going to be rebuilding a worn 8274. Before we get started, I want to talk a bit about the different stages that you can do. For the sake of simplicity of this video, I'm going to address what you could do in 3 stages. So let's call a stage 1, just giving the winch what it needs. So maybe you want to put a new seal here, a new bearing there, address the motor. Overall, give it a bit of love and address the things that it needs. This here is Tom's winch that I built with him. We'll call this one a stage 2. This has had the seals and bearings that it needed. It's also had a free spool delete because the worn free spool is unreliable, and it's had a brake upgrade by Giggle Pin or winch gear. It doesn't really matter because the brake is unreliable. It's got a Roadrunner bullet, all-bright solenoid, bus bar kit so that you don't have cables everywhere. That's what I would call a stage 2. And then you would go to what I would call a stage 3, which is everything that's on Tom's winch, plus an air free spool drum, maybe even a widened air free spool drum. So you can get plus 76, and you can get a plus 100. They are pretty quick to spool out. I've never complained really, but having an air free spool means that you can run the winch rope out at free pull rate. Again, for the simplicity of this video, we'll keep it to those 3 stages. However, there is a lot more crazy things you can do to these. You can get a twin motor top hat by Red Winch or Giggle Pin. You can go to twin ox motors. You can go to twin bow motors for different rates of torque and RPM. You can even get a twin speed top hat, which means you can have torque in first gear for getting through that peanut butter without having the double line pull. And then you can go to second gear when you've got those long hills that you want to winch up nice and quick. Suffice to say that there is endless things you can do to these winches. Today, we're going to be pretty much doing a stage 2, addressing everything that needs addressing, plus deleting the free spool, upgrading the brake, and putting a new motor on it. The first thing we need to do is get this brake off. I remember now, this is the worst bit. So yeah, I might have to get a puller and try and pull that off.
Been at it already, had my tarot read. Things are looking up for me, that's what my tarot said. Been pumping out pheromones and wearing red. Young Jerry Lolliver king, but they're not aware of it. $40 to show money, that's what they stole from me. Blow it all bone and guess I roll funny. Go find me a snow bunny, ask if this cold world's making her nose runny. She melted, I wear a cape that is velvet. Couldn't see it, she felt it. See it all like I'm Elvis, move my hips like I'm Elvis. I don't pitch it, I sell it. Couldn't picture me jealous, turning fans into zealots. Tuning in when I tell it.
We've got a replacement one of these, but the thing we do need is the large cam gear, because the brake shaft replacement we got, it doesn't come with the large cam gear. They're hard to get in Australia at the moment. I have Tyler's if we run into trouble, because he was able to get a new large one, but we'll see how we go. Yeah, sorry, I stopped filming there for a second because that was a bit of a shit fight. Getting the large cam gear off the old shaft, sometimes they can be really seized on there, but it's off. That's ready to go in. The gears on inspection, they all look really good. The oil doesn't even look that bad. Alright, now it's just a matter of cleaning everything up.
Highly gifted, my jacket's thrifted. Watch me get a pattern shifted, just acting different. Living in my minutes, I'm catalytic. That's why they love to jack the style like it's on a Civic. I will never pull the strings like an old.
Now it's time to do the top hat, so we're just going to get this motor off.
These little men try and be Bonapartes and make the rest of us deal with their broken parts. Despite evil, I like people. Put your hands in the air if you're bipedal. Yeah, if life is a film, give me 5 sequels. Trying to pull my thread through the plot like a fine needle. All of these lines equal proof that I live alone. Got the benefit of time to deliver flows. Eating creamy.
So there we have it. That's all the parts disassembled. Sometimes you need to rebuild the top hat. It's a bit of a pain in the ass because this has got a pin that goes through the housing. All they do when they assemble them, there's 4 little nicks here and it squeezes that pin and it can't come back out. And all I did for mine was sort of check how it all felt. This one feels really good. It got about the same amount of play as mine did. The gears, all you'd really look for on these is they shouldn't feel sharp. Like for example, when we rebuilt Tom's, these were like knives. That's the little free spool gear. But yeah, now it's time to just wire wheel everything. All the bits have been cleaned. Now I'm going to put a oil drain in the bottom of this so that you can change the oil without having to take it out of the bar. One thing about tapping a tapered thread, like this is 1/8 MPT, is you don't want to tap it too deep because otherwise your bung will go all the way in and it still won't get tight. The idea is just to, like I try and tap it just the tip, just so that you're not ending up with a situation where it screws all the way in and their head bottoms out. I usually do it with the next size up, but I've lost my tap, so that'll be right. I can't really do much more until we have welded on the brace, and then I can start assembling it. I'll see you then. So as you saw in the videos, we actually ended up doing it with the MIG because we were having a bit of trouble with Drew's TIG again. He's had constant problems with it. So yeah, MIG done the job. These things never had a brace before and the welds are nice and strong, so they'll be fine. I'm just doing the breather, so I'm just gonna tap that now. The last thing we've got to do before paint is get the brake retainer. So I'll show what I'm talking about, and you've just got to drill a couple of holes and then use 2 grub screws to get that located in here. If you've seen Tyler's first video in Tassie, you've probably seen me do this already. That's the piece there, and that's gonna go in there like that and grub screwed into place. And you've just got to make sure you get a consistent lip around the whole thing. So this edge around here, you've just got to make sure you've got a consistent edge around the whole circle. Alrighty, so now what we're doing is we've got that plate gripped to the back of this. So then we've got a 2mm drill bit. And then you take this away, you increase the size of these 2 holes to 3mm, and then you tap this. And so then you've got 2 M3s that are going to go through the housing and screw into this. So you can see we've got our 3mm holes through this. And now we've just got to tap this piece. Done a dot of red Loctite on each side and we'll wind them in. So we've done the whole winch in just a satin black, except for the outside brake. I've done that in like Toyota's magnetic grey. The original plan was to maybe do like a white end cap and then a white top hat. It's a shame to like sand up and paint a brand new motor from Warn. So yeah, we'll let all this bake in the sun and then we'll get to assembling it. All these parts have had a day baking in the sun. They're all cured up nice now. The first thing we need to do is to tap in the new bush into here with the quad ring and then the outer bush, which is going to support the drum and keep the oil in. And so you can just get a Warn bottom end rebuild. And so you'll get 3 bits of plastic, you'll get the bush, you'll get a quad ring, and then you have the flat bush. And so you just want to tap that in until it's flush with the inside, and that gives you enough room to put the quad ring and the outer bush. I went to start putting the gears in, and one of the circlips is missing out of the kit, which is a pain in the ass. Seeing as we can't do the lower drum, we're going to start on the top drum, and we're going to start by putting the free spool delete in. With mine and Tyler's, I put a little bit of sealant around it, but to be honest with you, it's a really, really snug fit. It's got a breather, so it's not going to want to suck in water and whatnot through the cap. And so you can see there, that free spool cap just puts the armature gear in mesh permanently. Now it's time to turn it over and put the armature bearing in. Free spool delete on, new armature bearing in. It's time to slide in that new Warn motor. Motor bolted all up, now we'll get the bus bars on. So if you don't really understand what all this is doing, from a switch you're going to give one of these power. Whichever one you give power, that's going to send a signal to the winch. If you give this one 12 volt, winch is going to wind in. If you give this one here 12 volt, it's going to wind out. And that's all this little box here is doing. The top is all rebuilt and I will get to the bottom tomorrow after I've got that circlip. So I'll go out and get that in the morning and then we'll keep going tomorrow night. I'll see you guys there. Today we're going to be working on the bottom end of the housing. Went down to the shop and got the circlip we needed. First thing we're going to do is put a little bit of grease in the needle roller. Then we need to start getting all the gears in, so I'll show you which order they're going as we go. So first up, main gear, nose facing up, the card, the dimples facing up, but these things facing down. That there is going to end up locking the drum in, and this keyway in here is going to end up locking the brake in. And so the big hole in it is going to end up so that you can push the brake down into the needle rollers down the bottom. Intermediate gear, nose again facing up, that's going to go on top. And you just want that in a spot ready for the brake shaft to come through it like that. Now we're going to be dropping the brake shaft down into this hole. But while we do it, we're going to be putting this washer with the step facing up. Then we're going to put the circlip around this groove here once it's in. So you'll feel that bite this gear here, and you can see the brake shaft has gone through these two bits here. So now I'm going to turn it on its side and we'll press this up against where it needs to go and then do up the circlip. And then you can see that groove is just showing now. And then we've got this circlip, which we're going to put around this step in here. And so that's all in as it should be. Once the circlip and everything's on, there's like a brass ring that you've got to tap in around the brake shaft. So we'll tap that in now. It's good to use the old one as a means of tapping it in so you don't damage the new one. And you want to get that in about 5mm down so that you've got room to put the seal in behind it. So this is the seal here. I'm just going to put a little bit of grease on the inside, but I'm going to leave the outside dry because you don't want this spinning in there. Now this can be a little bit tricky. I like to use a little pick. Alright, now the seal's all in, we're going to put the brake pull back on. And so this pin here can only go in one half of this, and that's to preload it up right. So if you try and put it in and it won't go all the way down, then just keep on going until you find the spot where it sits. There it is, you can see it's come out the top, and then we're going to do this up, and that's an 11mm because it's stupid. Now we can start putting the brake on. This can be a bit fiddly. It does make it easier with the giggle pin or winch gear set because you're not trying to put a circlip on. So we're going to put some preload on this, and then we're going to put the first brake rotor on. First brake pad, this middle section of the brake, making sure that it faces the right way so that the pull grabs it like that. Second brake pad, and now we've got to put in the new ball bearings. So a little bit of grease, and that's just so they stick into position. And you just want to go around the whole outside. And that's it, you just want a full loop around the whole thing. Now we want to chuck our new spring down the middle like that. This washer with the step in it on top of the spring, and then we want the top brake rotor. And once all that's happy, put the new locators in, and then put on the new cap and bolt. Now this has got like a washer on it that bites in, so you don't need to do it crazy tight. So now it's time to turn it back over and get the drum in. So that card that we put in before, if you can just see that half moon shape in there, that's actually what holds the drum in. And so we're going to lift that up a bit. We're going to line the main gear up so that the drum can drop straight in. And we've got the bush tapped into the inside. We've got the quad ring in. The last thing we need to put on is the outer bush, which has just got like a step in it. So that's going to go right there. I just felt that go into the spline. The last thing we need to do is push this card down, and that's going to lock into a slot that's in the drum. Now while we're here, we might put this end cap on, which is again just like the other one we did. Now we've got that bush on, I'm going to put it on here and put some of these bolts in just so it's all one unit, and it'll hopefully sit level while we're trying to put the top hat on. That's the bottom end fully built, and it's time to put the top hat on. The first thing I'm going to do is chuck a bit of spudge around the top. And now we're going to lift the motor on top and put the bolts in. So that's it. Jonesy's 8274 has finished being built, and now we can whack it on the front of his car, and all the things wrong with an 8274 is sorted, and he'll be good for life pretty much. Thanks heaps for watching, appreciate it. If there's anything that I haven't answered, feel free to reach out on Instagram. I'll put my Instagram down below here. And yeah, Jonesy, come and get your winch, mate.